Hello and welcome to a very bright day. You'll have to excuse me squinting, I've got the sun right in my eyes, so not ideal for filming. You join me for another video on my 1995 Toyota Supra. This is a non-turbo manual Jap import in which I've done a ITB conversion, individual throttle bodies conversion. For those who don't know, check out all the previous videos on the car. There's quite a lot on there, dyno runs and all that kind of stuff. Today I'm just going to be running through a few of the differences drivability wise between the car now and what it was like before I took it to SRD tuning. It does seem to be quite a lot better, but I won't spoil anything. I will show you that in the car. Just before I take it out for a drive, what I want to do is put on some front spacers, 20mm spacers, subcentric. I've just got them from Driftworks now. Basically I need to put some bigger brakes on the front of this car because they are no good, no bueno. They're getting a little bit squeakier by the day. I've noticed after long drives it tends to squeak a lot more from the front left, especially if I turn to the right, I think it is, I can't remember. So yeah, putting more weight on that side of the wheel. So there's something not quite right there. No, I should say this is not advertising for my Hilker 2-ton trolley jack. It's actually quite light for 2 tons. So these here are the hub-centric spacers. They're knurled on the outside. Not quite sure why that is. Someone can probably explain why that is. And they've got a spigot ring in there to exactly fit the Supra. So let's get these on and see if the wheel will stay underneath the arch. Might be close. So as you can maybe see in there, just zoom in a little bit, there is absolutely no gap there. I can't even fit a quarter of my finger in there. And these are J-spec brakes, which are only 2-pot. Tiny little brakes, that's why they're so bad. So I definitely need some space in between there if I'm going to get any bigger brakes. Now, as things are never easy, I've already discovered a problem. So they bolt up fine. That is protruding. So my studs are too long for the spacers, which means that these studs are going to foul the back of the rim. I'll try it on anyway, see if by some sort of magic it works, but I very much doubt it will. Not sure if you can see in here, you probably won't be able to unfortunately, but the rear of the wheel is not up against the front of that spacer. It's obviously up against the back of those studs, or the front of those studs. Which is a shame. But let's let the car down anyway, see what we're dealing with. Right. Well, that is not fitment. So we've got quite a gap between there and the edge, so that is not going to work. Even though I'm probably dealing with an extra 5mm, I would say, from those studs sticking into the back of the wheel, there's no way that that is going to fit. So it's back to the drawing board for the brakes for the Supra, unfortunately. So you join me on the road. A little bit disappointing about those spacers. I did have a feeling that they wouldn't fit. I didn't quite realise it would be that bad. I did think maybe there'd be a bit of poke out of the arch, possibly, but for even just a foul on the studs is a little bit annoying. So that does mean, as I said, going back to the drawing board and working out what to do with the brakes on this car. I think I'm probably going to have to just get new wheels, which is a bit annoying. I can obviously sell these wheels. They've got a little bit of a lacquer issue or some sort of issue with scratching on them. Not my fault. So I'm going to have to sell them and get some new wheels. There is a company called Rims Carnated that I've been recommended to from the guys at SRD. They can recreate wheels, I believe, from scratch. So I might get them to look into different options. There's a few ideas that I got in mind, but I'll keep them to myself for now. So for those that haven't seen the recent video that I did, I would definitely check it out if I were you. The car being on the dyno at SRD Tuning, and they sorted out a lot of issues that I was having with the car. Most importantly, things with the map, but also little things as well. So I just thought it'd be good to just chat through the differences between the car now and how it was before I took it there. The chief problem that I was having was with fuel usage. It was on, I think it was doing about 18 miles to the gallon, and that was partly to do with a cold running issue. So I took it all the way out to Wales in a recent video that you may have seen, and the car never really got up to proper running temperature there. You may notice that in the video itself, I didn't really go all the way out in the revs. I didn't want to go too hard on the car because it was running quite cold. I had a sneaking suspicion that the thermostat was up, and SRD confirmed that that was indeed the case. I'd only done the thermostat a couple of years ago, and the car's been off the road for a good period of that time. I bought a cheap thermostat and got stung because of it, so it's not too much of a problem. They replaced that, and since then, fingers crossed, the car has been running at a good operating temperature. The dial is smack bang in the middle where it used to be all the time, and also, most importantly, the fuel usage has been a hell of a lot better. Before we diagnosed the issue, I noticed that I was getting about mid 200s miles to a full tank. A full tank is about 60 litres, give or take, in this car, which, as I said, averaged out at about 18 miles to the gallon. But now, since we've done the work, I've been getting around 320 miles to a full tank, which is a hell of a lot better. So that's a good 70 odd miles more in terms of range, which is useful, but also obviously it's a bit better on the wallet considering the fuel prices at the moment. I've averaged it out to be around 24 miles to the gallon, give or take. Obviously it's not easy to say exactly because obviously the tank itself is 60 litres, but then, you know, the pipe takes a few litres as well, so I can't be exactly sure. A couple of cyclists giving me thumbs up. So it's definitely a much better situation than what we had before. And also it's worth noting that before I did all the work, I would get around 350, 360 miles to a full tank, so it's not too far off that. So I'm really happy with that, to be honest. I thought I'd pick a nice driving road, or what I thought would be a good little road to take the car down and maybe get a couple of outside vids, but it's the road up to Box Hill and Surrey Hills, and another thumbs up. It's got speed bumps all the way along, it's National Trust. Yeah, not the ideal route, to be honest. So in terms of drivability differences in the car, so obviously Mike spent a lot of time going through the map and just ironing out a few little issues. Cold start, for one, has been much better. It still revs fairly low. I thought it was a case where you could just put in on the map like a choke system, but it's not quite as easy as that apparently. But it starts every time. You do sometimes, if it's particularly cold, have to give it a little bit of a couple of revs just to keep the idle going, basically. But in general, it seems to be really good, the cold start, which is helpful. As I mentioned in the previous video, it's a lot less, I would say, leery. Leery is the word I used last time, and I'm going to stick with that word. It was, you know, really rough on idle, whereas now it feels a lot more refined. In general, it just seems to run a lot smoother, and the power delivery is a little bit smoother as well. I have noticed that at lower speeds in a higher gear, if the revs drop a little too low, it does tend to jerk around a little bit. I don't think I noticed that before we did any of the work, but I think it's probably just a case of trying to sort of source that low down power, because that was something that I did maybe complain a little bit to Mike around it not having a lot of power low down, like the 1 to 2,000 RPM, it basically had nothing. Now I'm 1,000 RPM, put my foot down, and it's fine. So it's absolutely nothing that I'm gonna concern myself about. This is such a horrendous road to have picked to drive down. cycle is telling me to send it there. So I'll give it a little bit of a boot for him. Now obviously the headline from my last video was the power increase. The fact that I still think it probably is the most powerful NA or non-turbo Supra in the country, which is a good little accolade to have, I'd say. If anyone has a more powerful Supra, I'd be dead keen to have a look, or even a more powerful 2JZ GE. Obviously let me know, and I'd love to come and check it out and see what you've done. But in terms of day-to-day, the difference between the 206 wheel horsepower and the 220 wheel horsepower that I'm now running, now bear in mind that is with the socks on, you don't notice day-to-day. Obviously that 15 horsepower doesn't really make a lot of difference in the real life. I think around a track I might very well notice that, especially with the socks off. I'm looking at, you know, 280 horsepower at the flywheel, which I think before I was around 258. So at the top end you probably will notice that a little bit more, but in day-to-day driving I don't really notice the difference. It's just more the way the power is delivered that I've noticed. Obviously, as I said, it seems to be a lot smoother than it was before. Now that I've kind of gone over the differences between how the car was before and how it is now, what's next? That seems to be the question posed to me quite a lot by friends and viewers. What's next? Now obviously I've mentioned brakes. Brakes is the #1 thing that I need to get sorted. I want to be taking this car out on track quite a lot, maybe 2-3 times a year, and at the moment the brakes just aren't up to it. As I've said, I want to get the K-Sport brakes, so I'm going to go for 3, 5, 6mm K-Sport brakes. I have a choice between fixed or floating rotors. I don't really know the difference between the two, so if anyone does know, I'd love you to pop in the comments section down below and just let me know what the difference is between the two. I would assume floating rotors are better for cooling, but yeah, in the real world I don't really know, so let me know if you do know that. What I think I'm going to have to do is get a whole new set of wheels to get these brakes to fit, as I mentioned before. In other videos I've also mentioned about getting suspension. That's quite high up on the list, so wheels, brakes and suspension, but we're looking at quite a lot of money there obviously. I also ended up ordering a dash loom for the car, so hopefully I'll be able to get the air conditioning heater system working properly. One thing I have noticed from the last time that we played around with everything and fixed the servo at SRD, the temperature control seems to be a lot better than it was before. So before it was only hot or cold, now I can get in between temperatures, which is obviously really nice to have. But the fan speed still doesn't work and the air conditioning still doesn't work, so there's a lot to be done there. So I'll take it back to SRD and get them to fit the dash loom and hopefully diagnose what the issue is. And finally, I do plan to be at a couple of car shows in the near future. So there's an MR2 day over in Coventry on the 29th of May. I'm hoping to get the car up on a stand there, providing the brakes still last. And then also Adam Sea Fest, which I believe is on the 3rd of June. If anyone's coming to there, be sure to say hello. My car should hopefully be at those 2 events. But all in all, I'm really happy with how the Supra's driving at the moment. Apart from the brakes, I can't really fault it. I think that we've come a long way since, well, obviously since the project was started, but since the car was first on the road, when we were having the hesitation issues, when I was having manifold issues, when I was having all sorts of problems with the car. It's definitely come a long way, so I do want to thank everyone that's helped me out along the way. So obviously Liam for doing all the work, Pip for doing the initial mapping and getting the car running, SRD for everything that they've done recently for getting the car ironed out and all these little issues ironed out, and obviously all you guys for watching. If you want to subscribe, go for it. If you don't, then don't bother, and I'll catch you in the next video.